Because the question of character, particularly in a president, is important. And Donald Trump, Lord knows, has been bringing up Hillary Clinton's character and Bill Clinton's character. There's also a story in the Washington Post that Trump used to call reporters claiming to be a publicist named John Miller, but really it was Trump, to brag about himself and his exploits with women. Here's a clip from one of those phone calls back in the 90s, and then Trump this week denying that it's him.
He's somebody that has a lot of options, and frankly, he gets called by everybody. He's living with Marla, and he's got 3 other girlfriends.
It was not me on the phone, and it doesn't sound like me on the phone, I will tell you that, and it was not me on the phone.
But back in the 90s, Trump admitted to that reporter later that it was him, and he testified in a court case that he sometimes used the assumed name John Miller. I guess the real question is, what do you say, Chairman, to women voters out there who are going to hear these stories about Trump bragging about his exploits, about him allegedly mistreating women? What do you say to them if they have concerns and question whether or not they'd really want this man to be president?
I think that each individual person out there should evaluate our potential nominee based on the answers that he gives to these questions, but also look at what's at stake in this country and whether or not Hillary Clinton represents someone that's going to bring the needed change that we have here in Washington. And look, a story of 30 years ago and whether Donald Trump impersonated someone or not that he denies is really not the most important thing for us to talk about when you look at Hillary Clinton, and you look at the fact that just this past week the Clinton Foundation is being charged with exchanging access for cash. You've got 4 dead Americans in Benghazi, and instead we're talking about a planted story by somebody in the Washington Post from 30 years ago that really has no consequence at all to the issues facing this country. I think that's what every American is going to be faced with, is that fundamental question as to which person is going to bring a seismic change to Washington, D.C. And the old playbook, Chris, the same old analysis isn't applying in this election. And so I get that this stuff is interesting, but, you know, we've been through this, and it has not moved the dial 1 notch.
Let me ask you about another question, which is Trump's continued refusal to release